If you are sick of your credit card debt, if you've been struggling to pay it off for what seems like an eternity, and you just want it out of your life forever, then you are in the right place. Hi, my name's Phil McGilvray. I am the founder of Grandma's Jars Budgeting and passionate budget coach. For 15 years, I have had the privilege to help hundreds and hundreds of people take control of their finances, eliminate debt, and build a strong financial future. In this course, I am going to share with you the strategies and the techniques that I have used and that my clients have used so successfully to help them build a strong financial future, to help them eliminate that credit card debt and then not have it come back. This is something that I'm absolutely passionate about. And so I'm going to take you through the steps that you need to follow. But can I encourage you, please follow the steps in the right order and complete each step thoroughly, and you will have a good outcome. But before I show you the exact strategies and the processes that I use, can I please encourage you, use the Grandma's Jars app. You have been given a free 40-day trial, and look, it's not expensive beyond that. But the fact is, the app gives me a fantastic tool to demonstrate how you need to manage your money so that you can consistently move forward month after month. This is a really important part of the strategy. And for you to really learn, you need to be applying your numbers, your expenses, your income to the situation so that you can get the outcome that you want. So please use the Grandma's Jars app and everything else will make so much more sense for you. Okay, now what we're going to do is take you through the exact process that I use to help people take control of their finances, eliminate debt, and consistently save money. So why is credit card debt so hard to get rid of? I want to give you two really quick illustrations that demonstrate why we get stuck with it so much. First, let's look at Fred. Fred receives $40,000 a year after tax. This is what he receives in the hand. Now, if Fred goes out and spends every cent, so he's got nothing left in savings at the end of the year, and he now has $5,000 on his credit card, what's happened throughout that year is Fred has spent $45,000. Now, Fred has no idea where the $45,000 went, but $5,000 in credit card debt, no savings, says he has spent $45,000. If Fred then says, right, this isn't good enough, I need to get on top of my finances, this is what he's going to have to do. In year 2, to pay off that credit card debt, Fred's going to have to find $5,000 to pay back to the bank, plus $1,000 in interest. So there's $6,000. He's still only earning $40,000. So what that means is that to live on, Fred's only got $34,000. So in year 2, he's only going to have $34,000 to live on if he wants to pay back that credit card plus the interest. That is an $11,000 turnaround on where he was in year 1. So this is a 25% decrease in what Fred's got to spend in year 2. This is why it is so hard to pay back credit card debt, because credit card has allowed us to live beyond our means. We've been quite accustomed to living beyond our means, and to pull that back significantly is a really, really hard thing to do. And that is why the first step in the roadmap that I'm going to introduce you to in a minute is we need to consistently spend less than we earn. So we need to have a budget that is going to help us spend less than we earn. You can't go from this to this unless you have a systematic approach to doing it. That is why we have this first step in place. But let me just show you another example here of why credit card debt is so hard to get rid of. This second illustration is more about the mindset that we have in terms of paying off credit card debt, or the way that we go about paying our credit card debt off. This is where we get stuck. We have our income come in to Smiley Fred here. Now, Smiley Fred has 3 options. He can either use that income to pay for past expenses, so expenses that are overdue or credit card debt. he can use it to pay for his current expenses, so the ones that are due right now, and to put food on the table, to pay for the groceries and those sorts of things, put petrol in the car. Or he could put money aside for the future. Now, the reality is, when we have credit card debt, we just want to get rid of it. We just want to pay it off no matter what. So what we do is, yes, we pay for all our current expenses. We try to pay for our current expenses. And then if we feel like we've got anything left over, if at the end of the month we go, yes, I've got some extra money, the first priority for us then is to pay off the credit card debt and deal with our past expenses. The problem is, this comes at a cost, because nothing gets sent over to our future expenses. So when those future expenses start to turn up, they become current expenses, and if we're not prepared for them, we don't have enough money, then those current expenses ultimately become past expenses. The problem that we've got is that we're focusing on the past. We're taking all of today's income or tomorrow's income and using it to pay for yesterday's expenses. We cannot do it this way. The strategy and the sequence that I take you through will turn that on its head. Our first priority, yes, we need to pay for our current expenses, but anything extra actually needs to be channeled towards our future expenses. And then we start dealing with the past expenses. Now, I know that might sound a bit confusing, but right now, most of you, what you are doing, I can see you nodding, most of you, what you are doing is you are taking any extra money you've got and you're throwing it at your credit card debt, but then when all your future expenses come up, you don't have the money to pay for them, and therefore those future expenses very quickly become current expenses, and those current expenses become past expenses because we don't have the money there to pay for it. We put them on the credit card as they turn up, which is why we get stuck in this cycle. So again, the process I'm going to teach you will help you break out of this cycle by focusing first on your future expenses and then use any surplus we have left to deal with the credit card debt. I promise you it's very effective, it does work, you just need to follow the process. Okay, so we've had a really good look now why credit card debt is so hard to get rid of, and what I'm going to share with you now is the strategies that I've used to help people get rid of their credit card debt once and for all. This is my roadmap to financial peace. It's actually more of a cascade, I suppose, and I want to explain it or describe it to you as a cascade. So here we go. Up the top here, we have number one step, income needs to be consistently greater than your spending. Now I know you probably know that, but it is the absolute key to making this work. We need to make sure that we're consistently spending less than we earn. This is the golden rule of money management. And the first module of this course is going to be dedicated to helping you consistently spend less than you earn. And this is why the Grandma's Jars app is so important, because it is the tool that you can use to help you track your spending, guide your spending, and ensure that your surplus becomes reality. Now, the surplus is really key in this cascade because the surplus, if you like, is the water. The surplus is what we are going to use to fill all of our pools that build that foundation we need to pay off our debt. So the first step, income needs to be greater than expenses. Once we've got to the situation, we've looked at it, we know that we can consistently save money, we then need to make sure that our bank account backs up what our budget says we have. What we're trying to do is move from a reliance on the credit card to actually having cash set aside for all of our future expenses. So our first step is to make sure that our bank account matches what our budget says we need to have, so that as our expenses turn up, the money is sitting there ready to pay it. Sounds great, doesn't it? So that's what we're going to aim for in our first step. Now, once we get to the point where our bank account sufficiently has enough money so that when I look at my app and say, hey, car rego's due, but I have $1,000 in my budget, and I know that that money is backed up in my bank account, then I'm on my way. I'm on my way because that means that I'm not going to need to use a credit card to pay for the rego. Okay, second step, Once we have that first pool filled, and remember the pool needs to be full first, bank account equals budget, before water can flow over then into the next step. The next step, and this is a step that most people miss, is we need to make sure that you have a rainy day fund of $2,000 to $3,000 in place. Now the reason we need to have this is because the unexpected will occur. We can only budget for 90 to 95% of our expenses each year, which means there is going to be 5 to 10% of expenses we cannot anticipate and we cannot budget for. And what that means is that by having $2,000 to $3,000 sitting aside, we have factored in that unexpected without even really knowing what it'll be. And that's a great place to be because that gives us the flexibility should something come up. And I can tell you, when you're trying to pay off debt, and you'll know this, things always seem to come up. So having a rainy day fund in place, on top of having money set aside for all our future expenses, puts us in a really, really strong position. Very important, your rainy day fund must be in place before you start to tackle your debt. Now the next step, okay, remember this is a cascade. We filled up our rainy day fund to $2,000 to $3,000. The water can now flow over into paying off our debt. Okay, we are now going to sustainably take any extra money we've got and we can start throwing it at our credit card debt, knowing that we're not going to have some bills come up that's going to completely derail our budget. This is a really great position to be in. Eliminating credit card debt. And when we get to that, I'm going to take you through the steps that we use to pay off our debt in the fastest possible way. And the last step in this journey is to then, once our credit card debt's gone, is to turn our rainy day fund into a full-blown cash reserve. So full-blown cash reserve is basically 3 months worth of expenses. So that's a very quick overview of each step in this process. I promise you this works, but you must not skip any of these steps. If you do, you're going to find yourself stuck in that credit card cycle. If you miss the rainy day fund, then you can be absolutely certain that something's going to come up that's unexpected, and just when you feel like you've paid off your credit card, you're going to have to put it back on the credit card, and that's very demoralizing. So please do not miss any steps. Follow it exactly as I've outlined here, and it will build a strong future for you and give you a roadmap to get out of debt once and for all. At Grandma's Jars, we are committed to your success. You've signed up for this course, you want something to change, and we want it to change for you. So please, if you're not sure about something, ask us. There's 3 ways you can get in touch with us. You can leave a comment or a question in the comments box below this video. You can join the Facebook group. This is a private group for people that are members of Grandma's Jars who have signed up for our courses and want some extra attention. If you've got a question, leave it there. Maybe one of our community will answer. If they don't, one of our coaches certainly will. And the last way to get in touch with us is via our Q&A coaching calls. Every fortnight or every 2 weeks, we have a coaching call online via a webinar feed where you can directly ask one of our coaches a question. You can either submit your question in advance via email, or you can ask online at the time. We want your questions answered, so please, there are no silly questions, just ask. Okay, that finishes this video. In the next video, we're going to start our journey with income needs to be greater than expenses. How do we make that happen in reality? I'll see you there.